And just like that, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. There was no thumbnail, was no title. We just had to get at it. Shout out to A Righteous Perspective. Send me a text message that said, hey, Jason, you might want to check out Candace's interview on Piers Morgan today. I said, say less. I'm going to make it happen. Let's go. And reached out to another great content creator. And she said, but before you do that, you might want to look at how Candace was moving on her episode that she did yesterday. And I said, what do you mean? She's like, she introduced yet a new theory. So if you've been keeping score, I think we're on 2, maybe 3 new theories about Brigitte Macron that are not in or maybe they are, I don't know. Y'all let me know, are in her 6-part series, Becoming Brigitte. So I thought Becoming Brigitte was a slam dunk, grand slam. Thank you, man. But apparently it might not be as much as a grand slam. Maybe like a double, maybe even like an air ball. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at Candace on her show yesterday, where she talks about the Tucker Carlson interview and a couple other things. And then we'll jump over and check out her on Piers Morgan. And just I want to hear what y'all think about it. So please jump into the best live chat on the internet. Let me know what you think about this. Am I going crazy? Am I just being a little bit too harsh? Am I not understanding the deep implications of this? And of course, let me know if I'm missing a point, especially if this is in her 6-part series. I don't know. But I will say this emphatically. I am waiting for her legal response to the lawsuit from the Macrons. Because she's not going to roll up into court and say, here, judge, here's my 6-part series and my 19 videos that I've done on this topic. That's not going to be the case. She is going to have to give a legal response to the legal lawsuit that the Macrons filed against her. So therefore, that's what I want. That's going to be the most salient, to the point points that she has. It's not going to be a bunch of conjecture, not a lot of theories. Shouldn't be, at least. And it should not be a whole bunch of, hypothesizing and station breaks. So that's why I'm waiting for her to write a response. So I think a question that a lot of Candace people might want to ask themselves is, why has she not responded yet? And let's go.
About another fashion house, Yves Saint Laurent. You guys know that fashion house, right? I'm feeling really bad for those of you who maybe have an Yves Saint Laurent purse. I certainly had one, or some clothing from them, very expensive clothing, because you're probably going to want to throw it out after I tell you this story. Okay. So that fashion house was founded in 1961 by 2 men. Their names, Pierre Berger and, well, of course, Yves Saint Laurent. The 2 of them were actually romantically involved with one another. And for a long time, actually, they were together until 1976, when they ostensibly split amicably. Now, Pierre Berger, I should tell you, one half of that duo, was a major supporter of Emmanuel Macron. Okay. Now, he died back in 2017, but not before declaring publicly his unconditional support to the Macron couple. He declared himself ready to, and this is a direct quote, to find financial support and to help Emmanuel Macron by any means necessary. He went on to say, quote, my support is obviously logical and natural. I've been supporting Emmanuel Macron for a long time. He and his wife are personal friends, end quote. Okay, so we got this Pierre Berger. He's one half of the Yves Saint Laurent duo, and he is a personal friend to Brigitte Macron and her husband. Now, that's certainly an interesting friendship, another interesting friendship for Emmanuel and Brigitte to have, because back in 2012, there was a priest in the south of France who alerted the French police about cases of prostitutions of minors at this villa. The villa was called Villa Majorelle, and it was owned by Yves Saint Laurent and Pierre Berger. And it was also a villa in which Jack Lang, who is a former socialist minister, was a regular guest. Now, the accusations of what was going on at that villa, I'll tell you, Pierre Berger refuted them. But he said something rather ambiguous about the accusations. A few months before his death, he said this, quote, back then, morals were freer than they are today, especially in Morocco. sexuality was unbridled and we paid less attention to it. When they say that I was having orgies in Marrakesh with Jack Lang and little boys, I wouldn't even have wanted to because I don't like little boys. Okay. He says little boys. I want you to hang on to that. Right before he died, he says this. Okay. Fast forward, or actually it happened at the same time, Fabrice Thomas, going to introduce you guys to this man named Fabrice Thomas, who would beg to differ kind of about what Pierre Berger was involved in Morocco. Now, Fabrice Thomas, I should tell you, he definitely knows Pierre Berger because he worked for him from 1984 until 1992. He was his sex slave and his chauffeur at time to him and Yves Saint Laurent. He took over for his father. I'm speaking now of Thomas's father, was also a chauffeur and also worked for this couple. And I should mention now that he and his father were incestuous because that just has to happen. Fabrice Thomas and his father, his own father, they both worked for the couple, the fashion duo. The two of them were incestuous.
Okay, so I'm going to just stop for a second. I have to admit, I'm watching this for the first time in 4K with y'all. You know what I'm starting to feel about Candace? All right, when you go to the grocery store, your local supermarket, whatever like that, you get your various and sundry groceries on the various aisles and you go to checkout. Hopefully you go to the regular checkout, not that self-checkout foolishness, right? So when you go there and you're kind of waiting in line, and you look over to your left, there's magazines. You look over to your right, there's some other magazines like that. And one of those magazines kind of captures your attention because it has some kind of shenanigans on it, some poorly photoshopped image of a boy that looks like a bat or aliens coming down on pyramids and such like that. The National Enquirer. Candace at this point is starting to give me National Enquirer vibes. What in the name does this issue have to do with whether or not Candace's claim of Brigitte Macron being a man cosplaying as a woman is right? It sounds gross with all this she's saying about these various and sundry relationships between these people, but none of those things point to, therefore, Brigitte Macron is a man cosplaying as a woman. It's just like some National Enquirer. I can't think of that other one that was during that same time. It doesn't even, ma'am, what are you doing? What are you actually doing? We got a few minutes left in this, and I want to get done with this, so let's go.
He submitted this in his book. Anyways, back to what Fabrice Thomas alleges about the fashion duo, because obviously when it comes to Emmanuel Macron and Brigitte, always somewhere in the story, there has to be this element of incest and pedophilia. I don't know why that is. Anyways, aside from having relations with his own father, Fabrice Thomas also, as I mentioned, had relations with Pierre Berger and Yves Saint Laurent. He says that he was their sex slave. And because I know that you are definitely not going to believe me, because why would you believe me? There's just so much pedophilia and incest in all these stories. Here is a spread in Vanity Fair: Sex, Lies, and Passions. I was Yves Saint Laurent's lover. They sat down with him in 2013. Again, this is before Pierre Berger passed away. It's not like he disputed these allegations. And he sat down and gave this exclusive interview about his affair with Yves Saint Laurent and Pierre Berger. And in the end, Fabrice would actually go on to write a book. The book is entitled Saint Laurent and Me, an Intimate Story. In this book, he recounts how he first started with the affairs with Pierre Berger. And then Pierre Berger said, oh, you should also inspire Saint Laurent with more demented affairs. And in the book, he goes on to describe that they had these quote unquote fine parties that would have pleased the Marquis de Sade. And he details in that book how he would alternate between pleasing Yves Saint Laurent, who had a masochistic passion, and Pierre Berger, who was more sadistic. Anyways, in a later interview that he did with journalist Jacques Themé was working on this book about, just pedophilia in France in general, how it's like a pedocriminal network that's controlling France. And he recounted to him the real reasons that the co-founders had a falling out. And I'm not going to get into the details of that because it is so positively disgusting what they were into sexually, words that I had never even been aware of, far past being sadistic and masochistic. Like they were into just, potty stuff, like really demented stuff. But the important part is elsewhere, when Fabrice Thomas is speaking to this journalist, he is unequivocal about Pierre Berger's interest in Morocco. He said, and I quote, that Yves Saint Laurent told him over and over again that Pierre Brigitte was banging kids in Morocco. He was very attracted to prepubescent girls. End quote. Okay, so it wasn't boys, it was girls, at least if you're going to believe his former sex slave. And again, he wrote this book and was giving interviews and about his relationships with this couple while Pierre Brigitte was alive. So what are we supposed to make from that?
That's a great
How does
question.
this just keep happening? You guys, make it make sense that we are speaking about the president of France and his lady wife thing, and the people that surround them are just constantly involved in incestuous affairs, and they are going down to Morocco, and he puts the Andre Gide book on his desk when he takes this presidential portrait. And we know what Andre Gide was doing down in Morocco, and everyone who considers themselves a friend, okay, maybe not everyone, but way too many people who helped fund him into power and who count themselves among the friends of this powerful couple, just keep getting involved, getting their hands sticky in pedophile scandals, incest scandals, okay? And now they're really going to try to gaslight us to make it seem like nothing is going on. This is crazy. No, it really is just all of my friends. It's not me. What are we even talking about? It's not me. It's just everyone around us is like this.
Okay, I'm just got to stop for a second. We actually agree with Candace. Well, I do. I've said this is gross, insane, and completely ridiculous. I agree with her. That doesn't mean that Brigitte Macron is a man, though. I do believe that there was some PDF file activities going on. There's a lot of evil, wicked, vile behavior going on. I got you. I agree with you, Candace. That still doesn't mean that Brigitte is a man, though. And therein is the rub. And I think it's interesting. Did you notice when she mentioned Macron and his wife, she said his lady thing? She didn't call him a man this time. I just thought that was interesting. But we'll see when we watch Piers Morgan. It just seems to me like you've gone. I personally believe that she's gone too far. I don't think that this lawsuit is going the way that she anticipated, because I think she thought that she would just be able to say, well, hey, I want discovery. This is just my thought, without actually answering the lawsuit. Because you can't just go in there and say, I want discovery. Well, did you answer the suit, though? Did you say that it was wrong? Did you answer these 22 counts that they made? Did you answer any of that? And I think, in my opinion, this is not going the way that she anticipated. Just my thought. But this is a new theory, by the way, if you've been keeping score. This theory, unless somebody who watched the series, feel free to let me know, is this in her book? I'm not in her book, in her 6-part series? Just wondering. Let's go.
Do you believe that? Do you accept that? What does it make you
live.
think about all of the people who are protecting this couple, the media that is protecting this couple? I think today was the first time in the Daily Mail that I saw them give a fair shake on what is happening regarding my lawsuit. Before then, it was just a full-blown public gaslighting, pretending that there was nothing to this story, that Brigitte Macron is the victim. Oh my gosh, could you imagine Brigitte, this poor woman who just fell in love with her student? Yeah, the problem here is Candace discussing this. Think about what that tells us about the world that we live in, about the people that rule over us.
Well, one, they don't rule over me. They don't rule over you unless you're French. But I digress there. And I'm sure you can go ahead in the secret cabal. But Candace, come on up here to the front of the church, Candace. We got to talk about this. You do realize you could call out PDF behavior without insinuating that Macron is a man. And all this other stuff, all that other stuff that you've done, you could call this out. And I think that that's right to do. I agree with you. I think you put your foot in the hornet's nest by insinuating that the woman is a man. Therein is the problem.
And that's not it, you guys. Now is probably a good time to tell you guys that during his presidency, during the first term, Emmanuel Macron's administration worked to have the age of consent lowered from 15 years of age to 13 years of age. Yeah, the age of consent in France is 15 years of age, unless you are an adult that has power over a child. Then it gets bumped up to 18 years of age, being the age of consent, right? So in a teacher-student relationship, traditionally, it's always been that the age of consent is 18, which makes Brigitte's relationship with Emmanuel Macron problematic no matter what, okay?
We agree. We agree. And lowering the age of consent to 13 is some nasty work as well. I still don't mean that Brigitte Macron is a man. And I think Candace is spending a lot of time. And this is why I don't want to watch her series, because there's all of these extra ancillary stuff that isn't tied to the actual point that she's making or attempting to make. And I think a lot of people know that. But, hey, as soon as she responds to the lawsuit, I'm all over it like nobody's business. I will be all over it. I just don't think it's going to happen anytime soon.
And when they did this, when they tried to lower the age of consent to 13 years of age, they did it in a very perverse and manipulative way. They told the public that it was necessary to raise the age of consent with an adult to 13 years to protect children. So they packaged this as, we're protecting kids, so we're going to raise the age of consent to 13. They thought the public wouldn't notice this, that the public would just assume that maybe the age was lower and that they were actually raising it to 13. But it didn't work. The public did not fall for it. The public was understandably outraged at this attempt, this naked attempt to lower the age of consent to 13. And ultimately that measure failed. But I should mention that another aspect did not fail. This brings in Eric Dupond-Moretti, right? The lawyer that's saying, former Minister of Justice, and he was the Minister of Justice at that time, the one that's out there saying, Candace must be funded by Russia, completely untrue. Trying to bring down the French Republic, completely untrue. But while he was the Minister of Justice, he did have some success. He managed to have teachers removed from the category of persons that have authority over children. Okay, so to make that clear, the age of consent is 15 unless the adult has power over the child. Then it's bumped up to 18, right? But Eric Dupond-Moretti, as he was working for Macron as the Minister of Justice, got teachers removed from that definition. So yeah, 15 works if you're a teacher. Why would they do that?
That's nasty work. That's vile, diabolical activity. I'm not in disagreement though, Candace. And again, I don't see where therefore, Brigitte Macron is a man. That's all I'm trying to say. And this is diabolical. And let it be known, let it be said, I agree that this is where she should be parking her cart or hitching her horse. This is where she should be, calling this foolishness out. Whether Macron is a man or a woman really should be ancillary to the fact that there are real bona fide children being harmed in 4K in 2025. That should be her. That should be the waving the red flags, sounding the alarms, all that. I don't see why. Again, now if she was getting sued because of that, I think most of us would probably be in agreement and stand with her. But I don't see why these two things go together, but maybe she'll explain it.
What do you think that is? That Emmanuel Macron's administration wanted to lower the age of consent to 13? The people that are out there trying to say he was definitely 15, and I'm telling you he definitely wasn't 15, if you look at when he was actually in that play. Why do you think they're working to lower the age and trying to, I would say, didn't work, but try to trick the French population into believing that they were doing it to support children? Why would Eric Dupond-Moretti concern himself as a person who represented pedophiles and came up with the definition of happy incest? Why do you think that as the Minister of Justice, he went about making sure that teachers would not be included in the definition?
I know, Candace, because he's a sinner and sinners sin. That's right, because we are all born and dead in our trespasses and sin, and we do sinful stuff. Some of them are really egregious. Some of them are just cheating on your taxes. But some of them are stealing staples from work. Some of them are nationwide clownery. But we do sin. There you go. I fixed the problem for you, Candace.
Of having power over a child. That seems strange to you? Is the whole world crazy? Or is what's happening right now in France insane? And like I said, making it even more insane is the fact that for the most part, the mainstream media has protected this couple until we blew the story up and things seem to finally be changing. By the way, I missed this, but back when Brigitte pummeled Emmanuel Macron, New York Post ran a headline detailing more things about their early affair when he was young. This was the headline. It was Emmanuel and Brigitte Macron's scandal-plagued relationship from student-teacher affair to the shocking physical altercation. Buried in that article, not really buried, it's kind of them just recounting how they got together. It's so creepy, right? I somehow missed this in the story, or maybe I didn't remember it until the New York Post did this deep dive about how young he was as a teenager and how things went down in this relationship. But this is a direct quote, ready, from the article. It reads, Brigitte's family found out about the affair in the summer of 1994 after they caught the two of them sunbathing around a pool at the home of the teacher's aging parents, according to a biography of France's First Lady called Brigitte Macron, an Unfettered Woman. The relationship between the straight A student and his literature and drama teacher caused an uproar. Locals sent anonymous letters to the headquarters of the storied chocolate and macaron factory run by Brigitte's family, denouncing the affair. Neighbors, friends, and foes also spit on the doors of the future First Lady of France, according to Brune, who's the author of that book. She wrote, quote, "From one day to the next, her friends with whom she was planning a vacation refused to speak to her," she writes. Oh, great. I'm glad that somebody had a conscience when this was going down and realized it was weird. What are you doing at your parents' house with your student? Look, actually, what is the context of this? And by the way, I'm pretty sure I recall that she wasn't actually, that was another like early on live from the press, that she was his literature teacher. In reality, I think he had signed up for one of her drama courses. But what are we talking about here, guys? What's going on? What are you doing at a poolside at your, would have been incredibly old parents' home? Who is okaying this? How is this allowed to happen? And then the parents have to move him out of town to avoid you? Again, any person that is defending this story, given everything that we have exposed, is someone that you probably should not be trusting. Because if we as a society cannot defend children, then we're not even a society. We're not even a society. In other news, I have some unexpected.
Okay, okay. But I'm not trying to be, I hope this doesn't sound bad, but Emmanuel Macron is now a grown man. And he is married to his predator. He's married to his abuser, married to the cougar, whatever term you want to use. He's married to that person right now. So I'm not 100% certain who Candace is fighting, what child Candace is fighting to save in the Brigitte Emmanuel discussion. Now, if you want to argue that these laws are nasty work, if you want to argue that this behavior is totally diabolical, I'm right there with you. I'll sign that petition right along with you. But I still don't see how, therefore, Brigitte Macron as a man is the next logical step in this discussion. I don't get how you're getting there, Candace. And that's the part I think that's really starting to show me that she's not, I don't think she's as solid as she wants to be perceived, but we will see. Let's go.
Allies in France. And those allies are members of the LGBTQIA community. This really gave me a chuckle this weekend. Xavier Poussard tweeted this in an article published on the website of the French daily newspaper Liberation. That's a left-leaning one. Louis-Georges Tin, the creator of World Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia, and Transphobia, accuses Brigitte Macron of, quote, fueling the stigmatization of transgendered people, saying, quote, the judicial strategy chosen seems not only ineffective, as shown by the acquittals of Natasha Ray and Amandine Roy, but also counterproductive. By seeking to clear her name, Brigitte Macron is contributing, perhaps unwittingly, to reinforcing the idea that this rumor is inherently insulting and thus perpetuating the stigmatization of transgendered people. And it goes on to say, in this open letter, they write, we need you to recognize that this is not the way to go about the situation. They ask her to instead be like Hugh Jackman, who laughed when he was accused of being gay and said that he was an ally to gay people. They also cite Lady Gaga as an example and Michelle Obama as an example of how Brigitte Macron should be handling this rumor. They say just like considering it to be defamation is inherently insulting and it is further stigmatizing trans people in France. And they are asking her to stop this farce. Totally agree that this is a farce. I think actually you're right, because I believe that Brigitte is trans, and you are correct that her refusal to acknowledge this is definitely not helping the trans cause in any way. But it's
Candace, come on up here to the front of the church, baby. Come on up here. Do you make room for the idea? And I think I already know the answer to this, but Candace, do you make room for the idea that you are 100% wrong? Everything is wrong. Do you make room for that? And therefore, Brigitte Macron would be 100% correct in saying that she's not a male, therefore not supporting trans whatever's, because she's not. Do you make any room for that at all? Is there any room? You can make it as small as a percentage, fraction of a percentage if you want, or you can make it as big as you want. It doesn't matter. Do you make any room for the fact, Candace, that you could be dead wrong? All the wrong. Because I don't think she ever considers, I could be wrong about this. And I tell people all the time, like, hey, I could be wrong about a topic. if it's from the scriptures, you have to prove it to me from the Bible. I have to be able, show me the book, chapter, and verse in context. And I have to be able to come to the same conclusion that you come to without you trying to tell me what it means. If I read it and my comprehension skills are fairly decent, then I should come to the same conclusion that you do. Okay? But I'm willing to say, hey, I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But Candace, I don't know if Candace is ever putting into her equation, mixing into her algorithm. I could be dead wrong about this. When we watch her on Piers Morgan, I do think it's back there. I just don't think she acknowledges it. It's kind of like that little, you have a thought, but you don't want to acknowledge it. And then eventually it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. I think she knows it, in my opinion. Let me get in here. Let's finish this up. Let's go.
Going to get interesting. Obviously, I was speaking with Piers Morgan this morning about everything and really saying to him, I think I expect it'll be out later today, that you don't want to be on the side of the Macrons. You don't, because there is no way they're going to be able to wiggle themselves out of this. It is my opinion that this was merely a PR move because there are so many lies that are in that lawsuit that they just wanted to get out in front of it so that people would believe that I had lied in the series, that I had said things that they alleged that I said that I most certainly did not say. I view it as a PR strategy. Or the other option is they truly are so deranged that they believe that I am being funded by Russia or by, I think they said, Marion Maréchal, and by their enemies in France, their political enemies in France, which is an absolute nonsense. There's not even a shred of truth to that. They could be so far into a derangement that they think that by putting me through discovery, they're going to find messages or emails between me and their political opponents in France. They could be that wacky. People do start to believe their own conspiracies with time, especially when they've had so much control.
The irony of what she is saying right here is pretty interesting. Ma'am, you do realize that we can say the exact same thing about you. The exact same thing. Like, all it takes is moving a couple pronouns and names around. And ma'am, we can say the exact same thing about you. That's what I'm saying. I am waiting for that response where you say that they're wrong, where you say that they lied. I don't need the 6-part series. I want to see you tell them they're wrong. You did not send me a cease and desist, a redaction letter. You didn't send it to me. I never got it. She even tried to chum the pot by saying it went to an email that she didn't check when she first admitted that they got the letter. Okay. Then show us the email that they sent it to, spam@CandaceOwens.com. And that's where it went to. Show us that. And I don't need to wait until discovery. I want to see your response to the Macron's lawsuit.
In their life, like they have managed to control the press, to control his image, to pretend that this guy who gets pulled up through Rothschild's bank and apparently doesn't even know what EBITDA means. You are so used to getting whatever you want and not having to work for it and not having to fight that they could genuinely just be so shocked that they have to attribute it to something more powerful. It is something more powerful that is taking you guys down. It's the truth. That's it. That's what you're up against. You're just up against the truth. There's no tricks here. There's no funding here. This is just a mother who cares deeply about children being victimized and the idea that victimization could be systemic and a government could collude to cover it. I'm not even happy with Trump not issuing a statement now. I think he should be speaking out and saying that it's ridiculous that you would ever and try to infringe on the rights of Americans that are telling the truth. There's nothing in my series where I told a lie. I told about the orbit that surrounds you, right? We need people in positions of power that have the gumption to stand up for children. And where if we don't have that, then it's going to take individuals like myself to do it and the people that have supported the series. And in many ways, they supported it because they've now made the series more viral than it's ever been. So we will pause there before I get to this other major disappointment as it pertains to Trump. I first want to remind you guys about Goldco because
Okay, well, that's the end of that. Shout out to Candace. Candace, come on up here to the front of the church. I think it's interesting. She said some interesting things here. And I'm just waiting to see how it all plays out. But shout out to everybody that has jumped into the best live chat on the internet. What did Laura say right here? Laura says, but why is she so very successful? I think I think I'm missing that conversation. So I don't want to mess up what you might have said. I'm trying to see what you said. What does Amethyst Angel say? The pot and kettle, game knows game, and street knows street. Yeah, I'm sorry. This is a lot of back and forth that I think, in my opinion, Candace is putting out new theory, new ideas. Like, for example, what was the whole point of the discussing about the Yves Saint Laurent or Saint whatever? What was the purpose of that? That did not, again, we all agree. I think most of us agree. I'm pretty sure that there's some nasty, vile people in French politics and French government, and they're wrong. They're dirty. They're dastardly, fill in the blanks, whatever. But that doesn't mean that the woman is a man. Again, like it doesn't, the end isn't, the punchline is not, therefore, Brigitte Macron is a man. Is Brigitte Macron a low down, dirty, rotten predator? Probably so. I think there's probably some good evidence to that point. Is she married to her victim? Yeah. So we can't really do much about that at the moment. But again, like I don't understand how she makes these logic jumps, but we're going to see what happens on Piers in a moment. I do want to say thank y'all to everybody who's jumped into the best live chat on the internet. I thank y'all so much for hitting that like button and getting up in here. I know this was unexpected, but shout out to A Righteous Perspective sent me this and said, Jason, you want to talk about this today. So I said, hey, let's say less. Let's go. Let's do it. All right, let's go. Piers. So yesterday, or rather today, Candace was on the Piers Morgan show. The video populated today. She was on the Piers Morgan show. They talked about a whole bunch of stuff around this Macron shenanigans. A new bet was made, all that kind of stuff like that. I just want you to kind of let me know, especially if you've watched her previous videos, of course, the series, Becoming Brigitte. Is she demonstrating the same kind of, air of arrogance and superiority? And I know I got this locked up. Is she presenting that same air to you? I just wonder. So let's bring it in.
Filed by the Macrons against Candace Owens is extraordinary and unprecedented on many levels. This is the world leader suing a US citizen for defamation in a US court. And the US citizen is not a legacy news brand or a business mogul, but a successful podcaster, which is a measure of the shifting balance of power in media. President Macron and his wife Brigitte accused Candace Owens of relentless worldwide bullying and a campaign of global humiliation over the repeated claim that Brigitte Macron is a man. Macron has tried other methods of warning Candace to drop the issue, including, she says, asking President Trump to call her directly, which he did. Well, so far, the main impact of the lawsuit has been to bring the Brigitte claims to an even bigger audience, with prominent coverage everywhere from NBC to CNN and the BBC. But many legal commentators reckon it's Candace Owens who ought to be worrying. So is she? Well, in a moment, I'll ask her. But here's a reminder of how we got here.
Okay, before we get there, I do think it's interesting. Candace mentioned in the previous episode that she thinks Trump should have commented about this. And I hate to say it because Trump has commented on some things that I think are way beneath the president to be discussing. So I wouldn't actually be surprised if he talked about it. But I do think she was throwing it out there that she wants the president to interfere. Why does she want the president to intervene if she knows that she's got a slam dunk, grand slam, thank you, ma'am? I'm just wondering, like, why do you even care about the president? Like, let's go. I've already written my response. I wrote my response immediately because I knew that y'all were going to write, you were going to sue me. I already got my response done. Let's go. When we discovering, when we go to court, let's get it. It seemed a little bit, I'm getting foot dragging vibes here.
I think you're a man. I think it's beyond obvious that you're born a man. You may want to split hairs about, well, I'm really a woman. I feel on the inside, I'm a woman. That insulting wig that you're wearing, it's ridiculous. It's like you're laughing at us. What I'm saying is that you were born a man and you will die a man. It is very clear that Brigitte Trogneau existed. It is very clear that she was, in fact, the sister of Jean-Michel Trogneau. And I think that if I am guessing what took place here, Jean-Michel Trogneau took Brigitte Trogneau's identity at some point. It's plausible that Brigitte Trogneau got sick, that the real Brigitte Trogneau got sick and perhaps had a dying wish to help her brother. It's very early on, but I know that the process is supposed to be the pain, that they want to drag this out. I can't see them wanting to make it to Discovery. I just don't see that happening. I think they'll fake kill Brigitte first. Like they'll be like, oh, Brigitte passed away from stress because of what Candace did.
Well, the host of the
Okay, that's pretty wild. I didn't hear that part. No, I don't think Candace is in the catbird seat. In my opinion, my humble opinion, I don't think Candace is in a position of power as it relates to this story. I don't think so. I think she is in a weaker position because of her incessant talking about it and her lack of willingness to even admit, like, I could be wrong. Like, there's no chance in the world you can convince me that Candace will get on here and say, y'all, I was wrong. But imagine if the Macrons plan on her having to do that. By proving her wrong, proving that Brigitte is a woman, and requiring her to go on, apologize, take down all her videos, donate all the money to cat shelters or something like that, and embarrass her. This is going to be ugly. But let's see. So now Piers gave a running start. So let's get going. Let's go.
Candace show. Candace Owens rejoins me now. Candace, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, Piers?
I'm good. Are you a woman?
I am, in fact, a woman, and I certainly would never sue someone to prove to the world that that is a fact. I would probably be laughing.
Well, how can you prove to me you're a woman if I don't believe you?
I wouldn't have to. You could do 18 hours of a show saying that I was living as a man for 30 years. And the easiest thing for me to do, obviously, would be to just release pictures of me living, yearbooks, me on the cheerleading team, me pregnant, me with my children, raising my children, long before, if I ever got to the point where I thought that I needed to launch a lawsuit, I would probably just release a few photos if we're.
But she's saying that the Macrons didn't do that. What if Candace shared pictures and we sent it to Chinese facial recognition and all of this kind of stuff, and we did the exact same thing that she did to the Macrons and say, no, this is your cousin Tyrone. No, this baby bump is fake. We found a receipt of you buying a synthetic baby bump on Amazon. Like, what if we did that to you, Candace? Because somebody could do that. For good or for not, right or wrong. I do believe Candace is a woman, by the way. I think they would be wrong for doing that, but somebody could propose this narrative that you're a man and all this stuff and just create the story and say, oh, I'm just hypothesizing. I'm just theorizing. What is plausible? I mean, that could happen, Candace. Let's go.
Playing devil's advocate here.
But ultimately, the easiest and quickest and best way to prove to me that you're a woman, and I'm not disputing that you're a woman, I think you probably are. I know you like to cast doubt on people's gender and sexuality, so I'll just leave it floating, hoping that someone in the internet world grabs it and makes me tons of money with is Candace male or female? But my point is this, you would be able to prove it to me by taking a simple sex test, right? You would just say, here we are, here are the results, here's the sex test. That's the best way to do this, right?
Actually, because we were in communication with her legal team long before she launched this website, we never asked for something that deep. We literally gave her a list of 21 yes or no questions and asked her to just answer it on the record. Also offered to fly over to Paris and interview Brigitte to get her side of the story. Before we even launched the first episode of the Becoming Brigitte series, we were in communication and offered them a chance to rebut. And they came back and said, we don't have to submit anything to prove that she is a woman, and we don't want to answer your questions. I've published those legal letters. It's the reason why people that watch this series are just not believing the media when they pretend that this was like, oh, Candace wanted the blood of the first lady. No. Also, she's not.
She did say, give us some blood. I don't have the clip queued up, but she did say, give us some blood. And then she said, I'll send my doctors over. So no, she did want blood. But, and I've asked this question before. Does Candace ever step back and say, wait, hold on. I'm asking the first lady of a G20 nation to answer questions to me. I mean, this would be very much akin to you demanding something from, the president of the United States, for crying out loud. And if you don't, I'm going to keep pushing a narrative. I just don't think that woman ever stops and thinks like, maybe I am going a little bit too far. Maybe this is a lap too far on this. Maybe I could tamper this down, because they really don't owe you an answer beyond what they've given you. They really don't. Again, it would be akin to me saying, Candace, I don't know if you're a woman. You got to give me blood. Like, what the devil? Because she did say that. So I love how she's reframing it like she didn't say it, but you did say this. Is that what gaslighting is? I think that's gaslighting. Let me know if you're one of the kids in the chat. Let me know. I think that's gaslighting. But ma'am, do you ever pull back and say, wait, this might be a little bit too much? And then also just how insulting it might be to Brigitte to be a woman, to have another woman challenging that she is a woman and not accepting any of the evidence you've given. How would you feel? I don't, again, I'm not saying that they don't do some nasty things and there's some dirty dealings going on, but man, for real? At what point do you say, wait, hold on, I might have stepped a little bit too far? I'll leave it alone.
Suing, obviously, my series was based on a book entitled Becoming Brigitte that I did alongside the journalist who worked on the story for 10 years. She's not suing him for defamation, but she is suing him for cyberbullying, which is really, if you read through the lawsuit against me, they are misrepresenting the things that I've said, taking them out of context, and pretty much smearing me in the process by pretending that we asked something extraordinary by saying we won't run this entire series if you can just show us a few photos of you living in this 30-year period.
Right. I think photos can be easily manipulated. We know that in the modern era. I just think a sex test is definitive. And the reason I'm asking you this is because I'm assuming, maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe I'm the deluded one here. I don't think so. But I'm assuming the only reason that Brigitte Macron and her husband, who's the president of France, are coming after you personally in American courts for defamation is that they know all they have to do to completely refute your entire conspiracy theory, which is what they say it is they just have to prove she's a woman. If she's a woman, and she's had 3 children, miraculously, and I know I've seen your slightly torturous explanation for how she's managed to secretly have 3 kids, and it wasn't her, and she's a man, but I've seen what you've said. But ultimately, if she proves she's a woman, which is very easily provable, your whole case just implodes, doesn't it?
Well, Piers, it sounds like you're on our side. It's been 10 years of the press saying that she was born a woman. She's sued people for cyberbullying. She's sued people for speaking wrong about a document. And yet the easiest path would have just been to simply release photos from 30 years of your life. That is why this is unbelievable. You're also, I think, largely misrepresenting my series. You showed only clips of me discussing things after the lawsuit, but you didn't actually show anything from my series. I don't think my series has gripped the entire world and caused a global leader to get on a plane and beg President Trump to shut me up because I'm just sitting there going, la, 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 she looks like a woman in a wig. No. It's a very serious subject, actually, Piers. And if you watched even the first episode of the Becoming Brigitte series, you'll understand there's an entire network of pedo criminals that are surrounding the Macrons. They have had multiple scandals regarding pedophilia that have just engulfed his presidency. And they are going after journalists. And to be clear, these were mainstream journalists, not far-right podcasters or however it's being presented in the media today, that were simply trying to do a biography on the First Lady. They were supporters of her. They were feminists. They wanted to basically glorify her as the president's wife, and they fell down a dark hole. Condé Nast journalists, by the way.
Okay, it's interesting. Pierce asked a very simple question that could have been, should have been a yes or no. Yes or no. She went on a complete and utter 3-part series discussional And I don't feel like she really answers the question because in Piers, I don't know if Piers watches the channel. Shout out to you, Piers. I kind of theorized that last week that the reason the Macron sued her is so that they could do that. They can roll up with a blood test and bang, the egg will be on her face, an ostrich eggs, multiple of them. And she will be looking ridiculous in 4K. I really believe that's what's going to end up happening. Now, I leave room, watch this, unlike Candace, I leave room for Candace to be right. Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, Brigitte Macron is a scallywag. Okay, so I leave room for. It's very possible that Candace is right. I do. I leave room for it. I don't believe she is, but I feel very comfortable that I am correct. That Brigitte Macron is a woman. Candace could be right. 5%. I give 5%. So I'm 95% certain. I'm not going to bet my new hat on it, but I'm 95% certain that Candace is wrong. 5% that Candace could be right. I guarantee you Candace will not give me that same level of, you know what, I could be wrong. She ain't going to say it. Okay, let's get done.
Got on a dark hole because they felt suddenly that they weren't able to get any answers to their basic questions. This was a mainstream issue in France. And so I think you do yourself a disservice when you misrepresent it as if I'm just like sitting here going, la, 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 she's wearing a wig. Show the real excerpts from the Becoming Brigitte series. It's incredibly compelling.
No, I saw that.
Even you could ignore that it's strange. It's strange. Like 30 years of it. Why would you go through all this effort when you could just drop photos of 30 years of your life where you allegedly had 3 children? Where are your children, by the way?
Allegedly had 3 children.
Wouldn't your children come out, Piers, and defend you by just dropping pictures of their childhood with you? Do you know her children won't do that? And yet miraculously, those same children do
Candace,
drop photos of their father?
All right, Candace, let me present another series of explanations for what's happened here.
Sure.
I believe, and maybe I'm wrong, all right? So let me put that caveat at the start here. Maybe you're right, okay? I don't think you are. I think you've been hoodwinked by these journalists who have gone on a complete fantasy trail of nonsense, trying to suggest Brigitte Macron never had 3 children, is a man, it's all a lie, and all the stuff that you've been doing on your channel and getting huge traffic for and making tons of money. So if you're right, it's been a magnificent display of fearless journalism exposing a bombshell revelation about the First Lady of France. I absolutely make no bones about that whatsoever. But if you're wrong, as I believe, I genuinely believe you're wrong, then it leaves 2 avenues of explanation for why you would pursue this so aggressively. One, you've been duped by these French journalists. And secondly, worse, that you kind of know it's not true, but you've ridden the wave of conspiracy theory about it because it's been so lucrative and it's gone around the world, like you've been saying. And I think that is why they're suing you, because ultimately they know that you've been amplifying this massively more than the journalists had in France, getting way more global traction. And it boils down to one simple fact, not photographs, as you keep trying to distract me with, but a sex test. If on day 1 of this case, she just produces an actual sex test report that says she's a woman, you're going to realize in that moment you've been completely duped. What do you do then?
All right, let's let that marinate. I like Pierce's question. You ran with this book, you ran with these 2 journalists, and you come to realize that they were selling a bill of goods, wolf tickets, you were duped. What do you do? And I agree with you, Tracy. Americans don't care. This is not a global issue for us, at least. We're not losing sleep over this. Oh, she's super interesting. There's no question about that, Chicky Brewer. She's super interesting. Even if Candace is right, I don't respect at all what she's doing in the foreign leader. It's not our business. Every country has their own issues. We have plenty of perversion here in America. Facts and evidence. Shout out to Julie Lopez. Thank you so much. Wait, somebody asked a sweet and sassy question. What are we saying here? That is interesting. She did get her to start by doxing people. All right. No, I've looked into her. Oh, okay. I see what your question is. Yes, I've seen her history. It is interesting. It is very interesting. It's super, in my opinion, a lot of the roads don't lead to a conservative. And actually, I have a video coming up about Candace being a Christless conservative. And we'll talk about it again for sure. When she interviewed HW and said Qatar and Saudi Arabia, Candace didn't look happy. He said Qatar and Saudi Arabia. Really? Okay. Candace did not tell the truth today. She lied today by telling Piers she hadn't seen his bet offer. He sent her. Oh, okay. We're going to see that in a second. I know what you're talking about. I do think it's interesting. Also, let me point out, did they ever clarify whether or not Piers Morgan owed her the $100,000 that they made the bet the first time? Because remember, Candace was end zone dancing, saying that Piers needed to make it rain on her and give her, I think it was $130,000 from that first bet when Macron's lost a defamation case against those journalists. I never heard her come back and clarify that. Maybe they'll bring it up in here now, but they never did. And I think that's interesting because Candace was saying emphatically that the courts had proven that Macron was a man and blah, blah, blah. And I don't think that it happened like that. Shout out to A Righteous Perspective, gifting 10 memberships. It still says Dear Woke Christian on there, though. I got to get that fixed. Okay, I'll figure out why that says that. Shout out. Thank you so much, man. This is our brother Wise from A Righteous Perspective. Thank you so much. If you got a membership from ARP, just put thank you. Thank you, brother ARP. Just say thank you in the chat. Or you can put ARP. Or you can say, I appreciate you, Wise, whatever. Just make sure you let them know we say thank you. Because we're over here, as a friend of mine likes to say, we're here in the South and we have good country manners. All right, let's finish this up. So Piers ended on a cliffhanger. Let's see how she answers. Let's go.
Okay, Piers, I'm not concerned about it because, like I said, it's been about 10 years and Brigitte could have done that at any moment. She's been in multiple lawsuits, involved in lawsuits, trying to shut journalists up. I mean, you really are asking people to defy their common sense in this moment. They know what has happened here. They know that we went to Brigitte before we started this series to get Brigitte's side of this. We were in contact with Brigitte's lawyers, the same ones that filed this case. We asked simple yes or no questions. We were not requiring a blood test. We were asking, can you confirm this is you in this photo from the childhood that has been produced, ironically, by a woman who was charged for forging documents. That woman's name is Mimi Marchand, and she was the first couple's PR person until she got in too much trouble for being a gangster and forging documents. They refused and declined to answer those questions. So,
okay, wait. One, Candace refuses to accept the fact of her role and position. Now, I do think that she can call out the shenanigans and the wicked, evil behavior that's going on in French politics, sure. But I do think she still needs to remember, like, I am talking to the first lady of a country. You can see them as being vile, wicked people, but they still are positionally in our society in a different position than you are. You still got to be respectful of that. You can't just kind of forget that fact, like, and know your role, if you will. And to me, I feel like Candace is completely ignoring her role. Like, I don't care what my role is. I'm just going to. No, Candace, no, these people don't owe you anything. And remember, Candace did ask for blood. I think that's adorable that she is revising the story because she did ask for blood. In the video we saw, she says, you can give us some of your blood. I'll send my doctors to do the test. Now, man, what are they going to come and do? Clip her toenails? They're coming to do blood tests. You said you want blood.
like I said, you are asking people at home to suspend their common sense and to truly believe that rather than answering yes or no questions, rather than maybe at first going after the author of the book, Xavier Poussard, who is a Frenchman, for defamation, that would be the first thing. Why don't you launch, at least at the same time, both of these suits? I'm going to go after Candace and Xavier Poussard. They are instead only going after me for defamation and not the person who sourced this entire quote unquote rumor. There is, let me tell you, Piers, too many people who have watched this series, okay? They're watching your
Okay, wait. If I'm not mistaken, Broussard qualifies his book as being allegedly. I believe he makes that claim early on in the book. If I'm not mistaken, I was told that his book is very clear that this is all his theory, not anything that he's saying is substantive or truthful. But he's just a theory that he can't prove and has no evidence to. That's why they're not suing him about that book. You, on the contrary, Candace, you were saying emphatically that this is true. But also, I think it's adorable that she's telling us that the French want us to suspend reality, while she literally said that the woman was on her deathbed and just said, "Here, take my identity and live your truth. Go, brother, go be me." Is that not any bit more insane? Pot, meat kettle? I mean, the fact that she completely misses how absurd her stuff sounds. That's why I said she needs to read her transcript out loud. She needs to read her transcript or have somebody read her transcript to her. I don't think she realizes just how absurd some of the things that she says sound. And again, she could be dead on right. I don't believe she is. However, it doesn't make sense. Like, ma'am, if I had to suspend reality to believe that some woman on her deathbed gave her transgender alphabet mafia brother her identity and said, "Go live as me," all while she's on her deathbed. But people now say, "Hey, weren't you on your deathbed last Tuesday?" "Oh, no, I was not on my deathbed. I've been healed." Ma'am, come on. It's the exact same thing in 4K. Candace, that is just as much suspending of reality as wrestling. We all know wrestling's real. So let's go.
Show now, and they know that you are not accurately presenting what has happened here. But also, Piers, I think you are better than defending a pedocriminal network, right? And that's the biggest piece of the story is how many people around them.
Okay, I gotta stop. Hold on. Saying that you don't believe that Macron is a man dressed as a woman is not even in the stratosphere of defending PDF behaviors. Candace, shame on you. I told you to come up here to the front of the church, Candace. You sit on up here in this front pew. That's some diabolical work. Just because I don't believe that Macron is a man does not mean that we're giving duck and cover to some heinous behavior. That's not, no, ma'am, you can't do that. You cannot do that. You should be better than that. So you trying to gaslight Piers, I'm going to tell you right now, in 4K, shame on you, Candace, because you could do better than that. Go.
Them have gone down publicly admitted that they were pedophiles and were involved in this campaign at the beginning. Even if you removed the allegation, which I believe from the bottom of my heart, like I said early on, I would stake my entire career on the notion that she was actually born Jean-Michel Trugnel. I believe that, right? And I'm willing to go through this because it's an important story about government deception. But even if you suspended that, you are right now defending a government that lied even about the beginning of their quote unquote love story, in which his parents removed him from school because of this creepy 40-year-old teacher who found a 14-year-old student to be sexy or attractive. This is wrong. Everything that's happening right now in France is wrong and it is perverted. And as a mother, I will stand up to this. And I am confident that we will emerge as the winners of this, because in America, truth is an absolute defense against defamation. And I am telling the truth.
Okay. So I still don't understand how both of those have to be tied together. Again, I do believe she was a creepy teacher that was having a relationship with a 15-year-old student. That's some diabolical, wicked work. That doesn't mean it was a dude, though. That's the only thing. Like, I don't get how that works.
Yeah, it is an absolute defense. And I think there are perfectly legitimate questions about how their relationship started, the massive age gap, and the rest of it. I don't dispute that for a moment. But, as you say, in a defamation case, it ultimately comes down to truth mattering. And it seems to me this whole case is going to be resolved in a very straightforward way, because the obvious way to prove that you're wrong and have been systematically lying about it, if you've been doing it deliberately or otherwise, but telling a lie about her, which has obviously caused an enormous amount of hurt, is if they just produce evidence she's a woman. Do you accept if they do that, your whole case disintegrates?
Of course it would disintegrate. Well, first off, no, they would have to prove the actual malice standard in America, which would mean that we knowingly knew this. We went to them with questions and they refused to answer. That is very strange.
Hold on. No, Candace. Hold on. Let me back that up a little smidgen. No, Pierce just said, if they roll up and show you that this woman is a woman, do you accept that? Candace is going in a whole nother direction. I hope Pierce corrects her on this, because that's not the question. She's answering a question that Pierce didn't ask.
Which has obviously caused an enormous amount of hurt, is if they just produce evidence she's a woman. Do you accept if they do that, your whole case disintegrates?
Yes, that should be it. The answer should be yes or no. She's going to go on a whole nother range. No, because... Okay, let it go. Sorry, Jason.
Of course it would disintegrate. Well, first off, no, they would have to prove the actual malice standard in America, which would mean that we knowingly knew this. We went to them with questions and they refused to answer. That is very strange. You're saying you're a victim now because this series came out, and yet you had the power to stop the series when we came to you and said, we're not interested in telling any lies. We actually want to get to the truth of this story. And we asked very simple questions. Did you ever live as a woman named Veronique? I believe, yes, Brigitte Macron, before taking on the identity of Brigitte Trogneau, lived as a woman named Veronique. Why wouldn't you just answer that question and say no? If it gave you so much grief that this rumor was out there, why not respond to that effectively in the 10-year period that you had the time to respond to it? Okay, Brigitte is not a victim. Far from it, I believe Brigitte is actually somebody who has victimized Emmanuel Macron. Emmanuel Macron is pathetic. He's absolutely pathetic for letting this go on for so long. You could easily dispel these rumors. And like I said, we were asking for photos from a 30-year period of Brigitte's life. We were not asking for blood. We were asking for simple answer, yes or no. Could you show us some photos of you raising your alleged children? They failed to produce that and now are pretending that they're victims. And of
but
course,
they're under no
backfiring.
obligation. Candace.
Okay, yeah, okay. Because I feel like Pierce is about to go where I've been going. So I'm going to give Pierce an opportunity. You do realize she did not answer that man's question. And, you know, shame on Candace. He asked, your case would implode if she comes out and proves that she's a woman. The rest of the discussion is, we can have that discussion about malice and whether or not you knew, but if they prove that she's a woman using the same evidence that they claim that they gave you, ma'am, you're in some high weeds. You an Easter egg on Easter Sunday. We can't find you. Let's go.
Right, they're not, but don't then complain and say you had to file a lawsuit. They contacted us, Piers. You're under no obligation. We didn't reach out to them. They reached out to us first.
Hang on. They say they made it crystal clear to you that all your claims were wrong, right? That your basic premise that she's a man is wrong. They said they told you that before. You went ahead anyway. You've carried on. Even when they launched the lawsuit, you've carried on saying the same stuff, right? And it's a massive play on your part. Listen, I admire your balls. I mean, it's probably the wrong term to use given the issue we're discussing. But I do admire your balls, right? Because you're going for it and you're doubling and trebling and quadrupling down. But ultimately, your entire reputation is now directly linked, it seems to me, to whether Brigitte Macron is male or female. If she proves she's a woman, where does that leave you?
If she was going to prove she was a woman, she would have done it over the last 10 years. And like I said, they came to us first and we said, we will not publish this series if you answer questions. Okay. So they were on the offense in that moment. I didn't go to them and go, I deserve a response to this. They had their lawyers email us speaking about this question. And so I have been completely honest and transparent with my audience. This matters to me because I'm a mother. And there are too many people around them that have been charged with pedophilia, many who have admitted that they were pedophiles, not even just pedophiles, incestuous pedophiles, people that molested their children that are surrounding them. Even the lawyers that they're dealing with are lawyers that defend pedophile and incest, preferring it to as happy incest when children are molested by their fathers. That's their current lawyer who has attached himself to this case in France, Eric Dupont-Moretti. Everywhere you look, you see a story regarding incest and pedophilia that surrounds this couple. I have presented that to the public. And if you are going to pretend that they have not lied, Piers, a couple of weeks ago, when Brigitte smacked Emmanuel Macron on camera on the plane, the Élysée Palace answered and said that it was Russian propaganda and that it never happened. They lie all the time. It's very easy to lie in France, where they have laws against speech and laws against cyberbullying and where journalists are afraid. It's not so easy to lie in America. I'm glad they brought this to my turf, because now the French people are watching and cheering, knowing that this couple has lied to them from the very beginning. They are due for an exposure. And no, I do not believe that she is going to be able to now, or willing to suddenly prove that she is a woman when she could have done that for the last 8 years.
Okay, tell me about the phone call from Donald Trump in which he tried to get you to...
Okay, I wanted Piers to actually dig a little bit more on this. Fine, Candace. Do you make any room whatsoever? And I think he should push back even more and say, wait. So what you're saying is, where they say on page, and I did drop the link to the lawsuit in the chat so y'all can check it out. I would love for Piers to say, hey, on page 87, when they say that they sent you these pictures, the birth announcement, pictures of her at her first wedding and all that kind of stuff like that, are you saying you did not get that? You're saying that they did not send that to you? Because Candace has in her mind, Macron's lawyer said, here's the proof and evidence. Candace said, this is the proof and evidence that I will accept, AKA answering all these questions. If you go back and listen to her, she says, like, we sent you these questions and you refused to answer them. Not that you did not send us evidence, but rather you refused to answer my questions. If that makes sense. And I think that I think Piers could have got her right over a barrel. She would have been in some deep weeds if she had answered that question, but she's not been answering his questions so far tonight. So we'll see how it goes. Let's go.
To drop all this.
Yeah, certainly. I received a phone call, and to be clear, this was on the very same day that Emmanuel Macron visited the White House, ostensibly to discuss Ukraine and Russia. I received a phone call at first from a third party saying that, and what I was told was that Emmanuel Macron, who was negotiating in good faith regarding an end to the Ukraine and Russia war, which would have required his signature on some EU stuff, was holding up stuff because he wanted Trump to speak to me. To get me to stop talking about Brigitte Macron. Again, very odd measure when we already said that we would stop speaking about Brigitte Macron. If you had simply answered our questions, you could have stopped this. And then the next day, or maybe it was within 48 hours, I received a phone call from Trump himself. He obviously was not following the series. He is not someone who I think watches a bunch of podcasting shows, but he said he was very confused when Emmanuel Macron took him to the side of a car and brought this up, asked him if he knew him, asked me to stop speaking about his wife, wanted him to get in touch with me to make that happen. Again, that's an extraordinary effort for a state leader to get on a plane and speak to another state leader to shut up a podcaster in America, when all you have to do to dispel the rumors is to tell the truth and answer the questions. It's so easy. It's so easy to do that. I would never let it get to a point where I had to sue
what did you say to Trump?
Podcaster in France. Well, I told him in the short run, while they were having those negotiations, that I wouldn't say anything, which is why we didn't report on it for, I think it was about 4 months or 5 months later. And that then afterwards, once they were done having those discussions, that I would reach out again and tell the person that I was going to speak about it publicly on my platform, because obviously I believe in free speech.
I mean, it's a fascinating situation that you've got a world leader coming after a podcaster. That on its own is fascinating, but it's because you have such a big following, and because they believe, from my understanding, that unlike the French journalists, where they were getting a small amount of traction but not very much, it's only when you embraced this wholeheartedly and began to do this as a big series on your very popular show and channel, that at that point they realized this was going around the world and they had to do something about it. And they've launched this unprecedented act. I just can't, I mean, look, again, I might be wrong, but I cannot imagine a scenario where the president and the first lady of France launch an action like this unless they are 100% certain that they are right, that she is a woman.
Okay, then can you?
Okay, so that's my... And I think Piers might have been checking out the Jay Witt podcast. Shout out to Piers. I think you were checking me out. That's what I think. Like, why did they sue if they know that this person is not a woman? Because that's going to become, if all the other evidence gets thrown out, and the only way to solve this is that by pricking a finger and doing a blood test, why would they have sued if they know that the blood test is going to reveal that she's a man or he's a man or however you want to say it? Why would they have done that? Now, somebody could say, hey, they can lie. Okay, if that be the case, then we don't have any hope at all. If it's a matter of we're going to go on a conspiracy, tinfoil hats activated, if we're going to go on the theory that, they're going to lie and they've paid off the doctors to say that it's a girl when it's really a boy, okay. All right, well, the court side gender reveal is what it is. However, if we throw that in, then there's nothing we can do. There's no hope in this. This case is crazy, and we'll just go home and eat, drink, and be merry. However, I think the question is, why would they do this if they knew that they could not prove it? That's what I think we should talk about.
Why would they take the risk?
Because you're saying it's because I'm big. They've gone after small journalists, right? They just lost in the upper courts against the initial journalist that brought this forward for defamation. If you lost this on your home court, why would you take this lawsuit overseas? It doesn't make any sense, right? There had to have been some evidence presented, which they only presented an expired ID, which is completely ridiculous, an expired voting ID. So you're telling me that you're not going to go after, you lose in the journalist on your home court, but you take this now overseas because I'm a bigger journalist. And to be clear, Piers, Xavier Poussard, they did launch a legal action against him on the same day they launched a legal action against me, okay? But they're not suing him for defamation. They are suing him for cyberbullying. So I got all of my information sourced from Xavier Poussard's book. I did a presentation on Xavier Poussard's book, and yet you don't go after Xavier Poussard for defamation, and he lives in France. Why is that? The answer,
I think, is because he says in the book that this is all my theories and hypothesis, not that this is truth and fact and evidence-based. I don't know this emphatically. If you have read the book by Poussard, or if you can do a quick search, email me, dealwoc@gmail.com. But I don't think that, I think that's why he's getting cyberbullying, because he's over here, calling her a man when the book just says he alleges these things to be true and he doesn't have any evidence to the fact. That's why I think, because Candace is saying this is empirical evidence. This is, right up there next to the 10 Commandments. Like, we can put this 11th commandment, Brigitte Macron is a dude. Like, that's the 11th commandment. So let's go.
So that question is because Xavier Poussard has been on the offense against them. He won in the courts to have her Sacré-Cœur, which is Sacred Heart, is where Brigitte Macron allegedly went to school in high school. He won for them to release we would call it in America, a yearbook, which would have had a photo of Brigitte Macron in it. The school is refusing to give it to him. So the court would have to at first acknowledge the actions that this brave journalist brought against Brigitte Macron to expose this story before they would acknowledge her actions against him. They are being very cunning in how they're dealing with this. They launched this lawsuit because they failed in their first defamation efforts. So they thought if they launched an even bigger lawsuit as a PR move, and to be clear, Piers, this is not all that they've done. We have evidence that they hired a crisis PR team here in the United States before I launched my first episode of Becoming Brigitte. When they were in communication with us back in January, they used a UK firm, and they contacted that UK firm and had them go out to find a crisis PR team in America ahead of my series. Why would you do that? It's completely crazy. You're in contact with us. You have the power to stop this series.
All right.
So hiring a crisis PR team, again, I'm not really the biggest on PR teams, but to me, it just seems like, okay, so what? They hired a PR team. Okay, whatever. Maybe they want to improve their image here over in the States. Maybe they want to make sure that we stop doing the freedom fries and freedom toast and we stick with the French. You know what I'm saying? Maybe they just want to work on their imagery. They know that there's some scallywags. They know that this relationship is weird. Maybe we need to fix our relationship by having a crisis team. I don't know. But do you know, Candace? Like, come on. All right, let's go. This just seems like you're really making a lot of you want there to be something. You want there to be smoke, and everybody's saying there's not smoke.
If, as I believe, you are completely wrong and you end up losing this case, would you accept that everything you've been doing, if she establishes to the world she is a woman, that everything you've been doing would constitute, in that eventuality, a very cruel, vindictive campaign of bullying against a woman, challenging
I want to be
her
very clear. I
existence
would
as
have
a woman.
never done this. Like I said, I was not interested in being the crusader against this, because I went to them and I said, if you answer these questions, we will not run the series. I'm only interested in truth. I only went after the story because I was shocked by the pedocriminal network which surrounds them. It's shocking. Okay. There are real children being harmed right now in Paris. And there are real citizens that are being gaslit about these circumstances. I don't know many people who can say all of my homies are pedophiles, but it just keeps happening by accident. This is a very big story in France, and the people in France are behind me for a reason, Piers. Like I said, this would not have been a globally impactful series if I was just up there flipping my hair saying, well, it kind of looks like her wig is bad. We presented a lot of evidence. Xavier presented a lot of evidence. And I believe in my heart of hearts that she is not only a groomer and a creep for the relationship that she began with Emmanuel Macron when he was just a student and 14 years old in that play, but also that they are liars that are leading this country, France, down the drain. Truly, I believe this in my heart that Brigitte Macron was born a child, actually not a man, but born a male named Jean-Michel Trogneau. And everything that they have done has only further led me to that conclusion, because they are not behaving as though truth is on their side. You don't try to silence journalists.
Well, last time we discussed this on Uncensored.
You do realize, again, Candace did not answer that man's question. Piers needs to, this should have been a 4-hour interrogation. He should have pushed back and said, but if they prove otherwise, will you accept the doctor's notes, the kids coming up, whatever it is, will you accept it and be done? Yes or no? Because she just went on a tirade right there that actually did not answer the question. And this is probably the third, maybe even the fourth time that she's done this in this interview where she's not actually answering Pierce's questions. But she gives a diatribe that is compelling. She gives a very passionate plea. But, man, that doesn't mean that the dude dude looks like a lady, but that the lady is a dude. I'm just wondering. Let's go.
I bet you $150,000 that you were wrong and that she's a woman. On X, when we discussed this further, I doubled it. This is for charity, to $300,000. You haven't accepted that yet. So right now, $300,000 to charity. I say she's a woman. Are you prepared to take that bet?
I am 1,000% prepared to take that bet. I actually didn't see your tweet, or I would have accepted it live. So we can totally accept that bet.
Okay,
I believe Brigitte Macron is a male, and that they will not be presenting any evidence to the contrary, because they would have done it already.
Okay. Candace, I appreciate you coming on Uncensored. I think you're completely wrong, but we shall see. I think the great thing about this action is we're going to get to the bottom of this extraordinary story. Thank you very much indeed for coming back on.
I'll be back to get my money, Piers.
We shall see. I'm very confident.
All right. So that is it. What do y'all think? What do y'all think now? Rick says that dude is a lady. Okay, I got you. Charlie King says it's so foolish, so easy to prove. Just to have a DNA test. Why are they not doing this? I mean, I have no idea. Maybe the Macrons have an illness that they don't want to get out there. Like she has some kind of inflamed hair follicle situation. If you take the DNA test, people can find out that she's got this terrible disease and people can talk about her. Maybe they just say, hey, I'm an adult and I don't have to give a podcaster my DNA test. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think they have to, though. That's the thing. I'm not under the guise that you have to. If they say, hey, we ain't got to do that. Now, if it were like a paternity test, then say less. But Candace, it seems that maybe she got alopecia, maybe she got like chronic alopecia, and she don't want people to know. You'd find out from a drug test. I don't know. Maybe she's really black and she's been dyeing her skin, and she don't want people to know that she's really black. I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe she's got some chronic disease. I have no idea. But Candace just kind of dances around the fact that she got kids. And I would have appreciated her trying to explain it to Pierce, but that's why I said I'm waiting for her response to the lawsuit. Because then we're going to get rid of all of that hoi polloi, all that word salad, all that. We're going to get rid of all of that. We're going to get right down to the brass tacks. XYZ ABC. Because I want her to say that these people lied when they said that they sent her cease and desist or redaction letters 3 times. I want her to say that was not true. I want her to say, like, no, we asked some Chinese facial recognition people, and they said this picture is not who they say it is. That's what I want. They have no pictures of Brigitte at a young girl or pregnant. Okay. And Rick, I made the joke that I have on my birth certificate is my actual picture. So they have a picture on my birth certificate of me, little Raisin Jason, right? But there's not many pictures of me, my family after that. I think the next picture I can remember is like I'm 5. And I have no pictures of my mom pregnant with me. So is that to say that my mom is not my mom? Is there some scandal or some upheaval that my dad is not my dad? Because I never saw a picture of him looking at me smoking a cigar saying how proud he is to have me. Is that what we should assume? Or do we make room for the fact that people didn't take pictures as much as they did back as we do now? I think we do kind of forget and kind of imply or impose 2025 sensibilities on 1974. No, they weren't taking pictures like that. They just weren't. It was in the moment. It was in the moment, right? And again, like, I'm just because you don't have pictures of somebody, okay, fine. Am I okay? Okay. I mean, Candace was born in a different era. We all have 2-3 cameras in our pocket. I have 3 cameras in my 4. I got 4 cameras in my right here in front of me. I mean, we just didn't. That's not a slam dunk. I'm sorry. Oh, they didn't take a picture of her. Okay, they didn't take a picture of her. And are we saying that the kids are not hers because we didn't see a picture of her pregnant? Okay, all right. I mean, that could be an argument. I ain't saying it's bad. And guess what? And that's dope. I'm 51. I don't have a whole bunch of pictures of me between like 7 and 0 and 7. I just don't. I got tons of pictures of the dynamic duo though, because we got that little pesky phone and we was taking pictures like crazy. I mean, just because they don't have pictures, I don't know how the jump is. Just because we don't have pictures of Brigitte Macron pregnant, therefore, I don't know about that one. You're believing everything Candace told you, Rick. You need to listen to the other side of the story before you make a solid opinion. That's the problem with your media lapdog people today. All I'm saying is when she writes her response, to me, that's going to be that's what I'm waiting for. Just like Candace is waiting for discovery, I'm waiting for her response to the lawsuit. Because then we're going to get down to the brass tacks. Because that's the lawyers know this is real evidence. Or this is not a good defense, or this is not a good argument, whatever. So we're going to get to the brass tacks, if you will. And that's all I want. And I think that's going to be it. What's going on, Mike? I see you over there, Mike, from White Label Consulting. We just watched Candace Owens on the Piers Morgan show. It was pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting. I feel like she doesn't answer those questions. I feel like there's a lot of questions that she just kind of doing that Heisman on him. You're not answering those questions. Because this is a yes or no question. Do you make any room for the fact that you could be wrong? Yes or no? If she comes in there with a DNA test and proves that you're wrong, will you accept that? I mean, I don't think the idea that Candace says that there was no malice, if And personally, I think that one is going to be one of the easier ones to prove. If they say, we sent you an email to your email on 20 days before you dropped this series and said these claims are not true, and you got that email, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. Because then they sent it, they did it 3 times. If I'm not mistaken, they did it in November, December, and February. Where do you go from there, Candace? Where do you go? You're going to have to say, I was wrong. And I think that's ultimately, sadly, what's going to end up happening. And even though I do believe she has a very righteous cause of calling out PDF files and secret cabals and all these dark hands that are moving around in the back shadows, all of that's going to be lost. All of that's going to go for naught, because once the Macrons come up and say, they do that Maury Povich, you are the mother, and pull that out on her, and she's going to look egg on her face. All the rest of the things that she wanted to do, all the rest of the things that she was trying to call out are going to get swept away. And again, and as I said before, I do leave room that Candace could be right. Does Candace leave room that she could be wrong? That's what I wonder. All right, looks like some good conversation. Y'all have some great conversation in the chat. I appreciate y'all. But yeah, that was it. I know that it was kind of impromptu. We didn't really give you a heads up on it. I was told by ARP that I need to talk about this. And I said, you know what? This will be a good one to talk about. I'm looking to see where Lady Dearwood Christian is. She is not home. What's with that? All right. That means President Firstborn left and came back. So it is what it is. But I want to say thank y'all so much. Thank you so much for tapping in. Let me know down in the comments, though, for real. Where do you think this case is going to go? Do you think that it'll make it to an actual trial? Do you think they're going to find some way to plead out? Do you think there's going to be some way to find a loophole? Everybody get away and just be quiet? What do you think is going to happen? What did you say here? Shout out to, wait, what happened? I'm trying to check out this comment and it won't populate on the screen. What do you know about that? I'm going to do it like this. Comment won't come. It says, yes, exactly. Here with podcast, she is focusing on the wrong thing. The PDF is more important than whether or not Ms. Macron is a man or a woman. That's it. I don't even understand why is whether or not Macron is a male or a woman is overshadowing. And she keeps trying to lump in the PDFs and the weird cabal stuff under the shadow of dude looks like a lady. Like, why is that even an issue? I think it's gross and definitely inappropriate and definitely unequivocally perverse. But I think what's happening to children is far worse. And I don't know what was the whole thing with Morocco. I didn't know if there was like some upshot that was going to happen, like with the Morocco commentary or something like that. But that is what it is. Yeah, listen, I'm getting them National Enquirer vibes. Somebody said it's gossip. Girl level cringe. I like Candace, but she is wrong. I hope justice is served and they sue her to heavens for her character assassination. Wow. Shout out to the enlightened one. I don't know why, but I can't post my comments on the screen. I don't know what happened. They're making policies that are soft on pedos. That's fine. And Rick, we are in agreement. That needs to be called out. But what does dude looks like a lady have to do with any of that? I'm not trying to be funny. If you're going to say that these policies, why not call out the policies? The whole, what was that? Raising the age to 13? That's crazy. That's inappropriate. That's vile. That's perverse. Call that out. Call that out in 4K. But that doesn't mean that the dude, I keep using dude looks like a lady, but it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. That the law is gross, is insane. The French need to call that out. But there's other examples of that as well. Why does Macron's wife is a dude. Therefore, I need to call out that no, they don't have to be together. They don't have to be tied together. I would have been offended and ticked off, Julie says, and ticked off is some nasty journalist demanded I give them blood tests prove that I'm a woman. Of course they didn't provide it. And it's because I'm sure they will now in court. Yeah, I just don't get it. Like, what about the dismissed case? Link. Oh my gosh, what's Mike talking about? Let's see. Like, I'm having a bear of a time. Something's wrong with my browser or something. It's not allowing me to. It's not even allowing me to comment. I don't know what happened. Let me grab it over here. Hopefully allow me to comment here. Let's see, try again. All right, Mike, jump in. Hurry up, Mike. You know it's past my bedtime. I just dropped the link in there. Oh, there we go. Now it's working. Okay, cool. No, it's only work when I do that. Okay. And Rick, I'm not saying that nobody does. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is not everybody did. That's all. And just because you do or you don't, that doesn't mean the dude looks like a lady. Again, it just means your mom and dad took pictures. That's all. That's all. Maybe they didn't see it important to take a picture at that time. Because remember, picture taking wasn't something that was as germane as we're making it out to be. But let's go ahead and bring Mike up in here. What's going on, brother? Grace and peace. How are you?
What's up, cuz? What up? Is this two
How you doing, man?
in 1 week? All right.
Can you hear me now? Happen, man. Say again?
Is my audio good? Is my audio better?
Oh, it sounds better. Absolutely.
All right. I figured out what these two buttons on the bottom did because I had to YouTube them because I don't use this microphone. So I figured that out. So now I feel like I can win a Grammy in the world. So yeah.
Okay.
So
well, go for it, man.
Just real quick.
Look out Maverick City.
Oh no, not Maverick City. Don't do me like that. Yeah, I'd go to Chocolate City before I went to Maverick City, huh? What you talking about? They tripping.
Wow.
Listen, anybody, I'm just playing. I don't do that kind of stuff. Did we talk about the dismissed case that came on that was referred to against the other two? And I don't know all the details, but I did watch the Piers. I did watch the Piers thing. Somewhere in there, somebody dropped a comment link that there were two other reporters that had brought up the same concern that Candace had, almost identical, and they were found not guilty.
Interesting. So we're talking about one of them's last name is Ray. I think Natasha Ray and somebody else, Roy. And they were found not guilty of defamation because basically the friendship, if I'm understanding correctly, I can insult you and say, Mike, you are a good for nothing yarn head. You can't sue me for defamation. I can insult you. And so saying that Brigitte Macron is a man is insulting Brigitte Macron for sure, but that's not defamation. That's, if I'm understanding correctly, that's what the punchline was. But go ahead.
Yeah, but it was the same angle that Candace had. You're not a dude. So even if it's defamation, it could be considered libel, which I don't know why they didn't just sue for libel.
I don't know either.
That's the easiest thing to prove. Yeah. I hadn't heard anything about this case until she went on Piers. I don't know when it was, and I think Piers had made some kind of off-color bet, like I'll give a certain amount of money to your charity if such and such and such. And somebody in the comment section dropped the other case, and they were like, and this was like July, like 2 weeks ago. Like the case got, and so then people in the comment section were like, "Hey, well, this has already been tried in the court by obviously was the United States court. It's already been tried once before. Like you would have thought that if somebody had said Michael Williams is a woman and somebody sued me, I would have done it to where, my opinion, y'all can disagree with me in the comment section. I would have done it in such a way where you don't even have to sue me again. So nobody else can come up and say that this guy is a woman because he can't prove this and the other. Now, that case did not satisfy what it needed to satisfy to be found guilty. She appealed the case, but now we're back to the same talking point again.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's something that I didn't really know anything about, is that there's somebody else who's already did this. So if for people that want to say that Candace is out on a limb and doing all this stuff, this is not a Candace. This happens, made her bigger, but this is not a Candace Owens subject. There have been other people that I didn't know about until this morning that have brought this subject up. I thought she was just chasing a rabbit hole at the bunny farm. You know what I'm saying? That's what I thought.
Right.
Apparently, this is not the only time this has been brought up before. So I didn't know if you were able to discuss that case and what that actually meant in regards to this case. Somebody else they've already tried to sue somebody else for the same exact accusation.
Well,
and they lost once.
They won the initial. They won the defamation case initially. The two reporters filed an appeal and won the appeal.
Okay.
So they're almost like 1-1. So they're going to need to do best of 3 if you want to say somebody won, or best of 5 and take it all the way up to the Supreme Court. But I did a video on it, and I dropped the link in the chat. Y'all can check it out. But the problem is, back to Piers and Candace. Piers said, I'll give you $100,000 if this case comes out saying that Brigitte Macron is a man. Right. That's not what the case came up with. Not what that wasn't the punchline of the case. So, Candace, when she's over at end zone dancing, saying, make it rain on me and stuff of that nature, she was actually wrong, because that wasn't what the case proved. Actually, the case wasn't even in that vein. It was whether or not it was defamation to call Brigitte Macron a dude. And is that an insult? That was it.
Jason, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just me, and maybe people are, this is what? This is August 5th. It's 2025.
August 5th, 2025, yeah.
Candace has been on this rant for at least a year, wrote a book about it, did a series, has talked to her lawyer, had done different stuff. I mean, if it were me, right, and I were famous, right, I mean, again, this is the whole Hawaiian birth certificate thing with Obama. Like, why are they making it so hard to just dispel this? Like, I know people are like, it's not that serious. She doesn't have to prove to anyone. She doesn't have to do this. Okay, fine. But this would have been over in 25 minutes if it were me. Like, we don't even got to go. Why do we have to go to court? Why do we have to go? Why do we have to go through a court case? Why is there all of this secrecy? Why is all of this stuff that's making it so much unnecessary drama? I don't know the lady. I'll probably never meet nobody. Only people I know French are people who make French fries. That's all I know. All I'm saying
put the fries in the bag.
That's it. All I know is that if this case were so easy, my opinion, if this was so easy to solve, why is it taking this long? That's what causes a little bit of skepticism for me. That's me. You can't tell me you're rich and you can't come up with something simple like blood test or a birth certificate or 3 pictures when you was a little girl or whatever. That's me. I'm like, what are y'all stalling for? Because even if you win, let's say if you win, that doesn't necessarily put the rumors to bed. Like nobody thought Cardi B was a great person after she won the Tasha K lawsuit. They weren't like, oh, Cardi B is now an angel. No, it didn't change his opinion about you. Just you won a legal case. Like P. Diddy's still in jail. He still got loads of baby oil somewhere hidden that we don't even know about. And probably 400 more tapes. Who knows?
For sure.
I'm just saying that this is unnecessary for the Marcones. Maybe they think Candace is not big enough to even give her the dignity of doing this. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know, but that causes a little bit of skepticism, like the tiny bit of skepticism towards me, as that we're even talking about it. Me and you are talking about whether or not she's a man or a woman. I don't really care. But the fact that you won't just come out and just say, well, you just say I look like a woman. Yeah, so does everybody on the Drag Race show. What it is, Racing Chromosome, whatever that show is with RuPaul. Like they all look, so that's my 2 cents. I'm sorry.
No, I appreciate it. Okay, so let's say Candace is correct that there's this secret cabal that is moving in the shadows, the court of owls, doing all kinds of shenanigans and vile and wicked evil things in the background. And they string along a journalist to make a lot of hay about their evil, wicked doings. They just string her along and they got her on the hook. And she's betting her whole career on it. She's making all these grandiose claims. She professes to be a Christian, a truth teller. She wants to dismantle the PDF file, all that kind of stuff like that. And they just keep her going. They just let her run it out. And then they step into court and they jerk the rod back and start reeling her in. And then they pop up with, surprise, she really is a woman. All of her credibility in all those other areas is going to take a massive, massive hit. And maybe this is a long tail. This might be the long tail of that. Go ahead.
Who is it going to take a hit with? Because those of us like I'm not gonna make myself. I want to be careful. Say this because I want to have a conversation where people don't feel like I'm dumbing them down. But those of us who can watch social media and watch these things and see them and know what people are about before the court case becomes positive or negative, most normal people are not going to change their opinion to Candace. Half the Republicans don't like her now anyway, and almost every Democrat, and especially Black Democrats, don't like her anymore. So exactly. Because there's people still going to play Puff Daddy songs and R. Kelly songs. It doesn't matter what they do. Public opinion is not going to still people stepping in the name of love, even if it's underage.
They still step in the name of love.
So as far as her taking a huge hit, I don't see any. I'm not going to see any drop off on her YouTube. She's going to have the same fans she had before, the same detractors she had before. I think that it's a no win for her. Because what if it comes out that she's right? And so what? Who are you going to have a bunch?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I've been saying. I don't think there's to me, it is a big nothing burger when you really, really boil it down. Unless you're French, I think it really is.
That's the audience that will be. That's the audience that will be affected. If you're French,
right,
and it proves that your prime minister, head leaders, president has been lying to you their entire life. That's a huge deal.
No, that's gigantic.
Yeah, they don't do nothing for us. I mean,
nothing for us.
I don't know if they're gonna give her like a endless supply of French food for finding it out. I don't know if she's gonna get
I don't think so.
A bunch of croissants for the rest of her life. Like I don't know what
croissants is crazy, man. You're out of control.
I don't know. To me, I think that with most people, if you make an accusation and it's outrageous, it's pretty easy to just dispel the accusation immediately by telling the truth. My only caveat is that this rumor has been floating around the world for the last 10 years, if not longer. And you're just like, well, I don't care about it. Well, at some point, somebody's going to pick you pick at scab long enough, it'll bleed. Or you pick at a Band-Aid and you find out there's nothing under the Band-Aid, which might be Candace's. She might find out she might have bit off more than she could chew. I feel like this is, to your point, a little bit of a nothing burger, but maybe there is some meat. Let me see. They provided the evidence along with the retraction letter last December, but she ignored all that. Nothing is nothing for her as it doesn't align with her narrative. Well, I guess that's it. I guess all the secrecy and all of the stuff that's been done in the podcast and the book and all the other reporters that reported on it, maybe the French president's wife are telling the truth because no politician has ever lied and we're wrong. Like, maybe that's it. I just don't know why this is taking so much of the world's time. And like you said, being a professing Christian, there's other stuff she could be contributing herself to, like getting her husband saved again, getting him back on the right track. Maybe her not being, I don't know if she's converted to Catholicism.
She converted to Catholicism.
Yeah, yep. I don't know. I think that was more of a marital thing. I don't know if that was more of a religion or a doctrinal thing. I had an associate who he married a wife and she wanted him to convert over to Catholicism. If you still talk to him, he's still a blood-bought, believing person that believes in the foundation of scripture. I think he is just doing something for his wife. I don't know. I don't want to get into that and examine people's motives. But yeah, there's a lot more constructive stuff she should be doing. If I were her, I would dig into the Jasmine Crockett's of the world. I would dig into. I'm just serious. If you have a crack, I would dig into her. Dig into Osmani or whatever his name is, Zuzani.
Zoran Mamdani.
Yeah, I don't do names real good, so I don't even remember your name. Is your name Jack, Jared, Jason?
Wow.
There you go. Yeah.
Wow, that's messed up, man.
Yeah, I feel like those would be a little bit more beneficial for what she's doing. This is a waste of time, in my opinion.
No, I'm right there with you.
But again, the what I would feel is the fact that this why is this going on so long? That's me. That's what it is. So that's all I want to say.
I believe they could have put heads to bed. They could have put it to all the rumors to rest a long time ago. Sure, absolutely.
Like overwhelmingly, like if it were me, I would have got. I remember when boy DT 47, that's my name for him, DT 47. When they was talking about all the illegal aliens, and he must have found an overnight Kinko's and got them poster boards and put them on the front of the White House lawn.
Oh, that was wild. Yeah.
And they did it strategically because they put it on press row so that when you went to shoot your videos for your newscast, there was no way you could shoot it without getting no sign. If that were me, I would have found a Kinko's in Southside ghetto France. I would have them print up 7,200 baby pictures and put them in front of the whatever you call the presidential thing in France. Let's just call it a day. Here's when I was 6. Here's when I was 3. Here's I was 9. Look, done deal. But we're still fighting over it.
I don't know.
Namaste Z says if she lost, it will cost her millions and teach people a lesson. No, it won't, because we just had Tasha K lost $4 million and she's still blogging. She still had millions of subscribers on YouTube. There have been lots of other people that have lost this case, have lost defamation, have lost a libel, and they're still functioning. So if we think that a few $1 million out of Candace's pocket and wallet is going to get her to stop doing this, she might go in overdrive because she got to make that money back. That's my opinion. Okay. You think the conspiracy theories are wild now? Man, I got to find out if Elvis was Italian and had a Jewish mama, and if his grandmama was an alien. Like, she's going all the way in at this point. That's my opinion.
No, you are correct. But I think to go with Namaste Z, one, Candace won't be able to file bankruptcy. 2, if they win and get her to have to take down all of that, she's not going to, because Tasha K doesn't talk about Cardi B anymore.
No.
So she'll talk about something else, sure, but she's not going to talk about this topic anymore.
Well, she still has 1.3 billion subscribers.
Yeah,
so
I'm not mad at her.
Yeah. The fall off is that because of what she does, she may take a hit financially. They may have to reach. I think she wrote a book about it or something. They may have to take the proceeds from the book or whatever it is. I am saying that the lesson that we're looking to have people taught in this case won't be learned by Candace Owens, because there's been several cases
it's going to be learned by us. It's going to be learned by us.
Kanye West lost $1 billion and he's still crazy. I mean, he lost a smooth millions of dollars, and he's still talking reckless and still dressing like a black church sock. I mean, he came out the house dressed in a whole church sock.
Black church sock is crazy.
Yeah, he had his wife booty butt naked walking down the street.
Yeah.
All that. He done lost a lot more than I think most people lost in life. He's still crazy. I don't know if you get into the place to where, in my opinion, where you, like other people have said, where you don't think that you can be wronged or are wrong, this case might derail her. She might go on speaking engagements after this. She might pivot all the way into politics. She's like, oh, really? I lost a case? I'm running for president.
I want to run for president of France. Move to France.
Oh, that'd be crazy.
That would be crazy.
That'd be
crazy. I want you to get into French politics. Get into French politics.
Yeah, she'd become a dual citizen, move over there and change her name to Candace Owens, and
you out of control. Candace.
Candace Owens.
The bonnet slides a pajama party.
Facts.
Facts. There we go. Why you like this, man?
I don't know, man. I just got done drinking some coffee and I had a wine punch. Them two don't mix. I'm like on 10 right now.
I hear you.
Yeah. So
by the way, if you don't know, this is Mike from White Label. Mike, real quick, tell us what you are, what you're about, what White Label's about.
Live stream consulting, podcast consulting, small church media marketing. I do all of that. I'm actually running a studio now, so I'm doing that for the next 4 months. I'm actually running the entire studio, live events, recording studio. We got a great producer over there, engineer. Somebody's giving a tour right now in the back right there. So yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Nice.
Marketing, we're trying to set up TV shows, comedy shows, trying to set up a whole lot of stuff for the event center over there. But my main thing is podcasting, YouTube, helping you get your small churches and small businesses on live stream, how to podcast, studio equipment, stuff like that. So that's my main thing.
I love it. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate you, brother.
No problem.
All right. Are you out of here?
I'm out of here, man. I appreciate you letting me on the show.
You got it, man. Thanks for following through. Grace and peace, Mike.
God bless.
All right. That was brother Mike from a White Label Consulting. Appreciate him stopping through. What do you say right here? Fantastically fit. I believe this person is a man because it would be easier to provide DNA than to sue. And since DNA is not being provided, he is a he. Okay. I don't agree. I agree. It would be a whole lot easier. I'm not saying that my reasoning is right, but I don't think Candace is that important to them in that regard to say, hey, well, yeah, we'll just meet all of your demands. But I'm not mad at you. I do accept that I do believe that there's room for me to be wrong. Though I disagree with you, fantastically fit. There's room for me to be wrong. And that's it. What do we have here? Julie says this. They couldn't prove defamation in France because the journalists actually believed what they were saying was true. It was proven that Macron was not a man. I think Candace has taken it a lot further. And I agree with that. I got that. Please read the lawsuit, not just watch the series. Yeah, I read the lawsuit. I did 2 parts of that lawsuit. I read it in 2 parts. And 2008. And I'm waiting for Candace's reply. Once Candace's reply comes in, I'll read that and give it the exact same treatment that I gave the initial lawsuit from Claire Locke. And that's what I'm looking forward to doing. Because I think that's going to be more succinct. And it's going to be like, this is going to be the facts. Because the attorneys in the law firm are going to synthesize, these are the facts. So it's not just, hey, watch my series and those are the facts. No. Give me the facts, the factual responses to these claims. That's what I want. So hopefully we'll get that sooner than later. I am kind of interested in why we haven't seen it already. Because I know she knows that they were going to sue her. So I'm sure she would have already had that. But that is that, y'all. I want to say thank y'all so much for rocking with me. Appreciate y'all so very much for hanging out with me tonight. I know this was a spontaneous, unsolicited live stream, but I appreciate you nonetheless hanging out with me. If you don't mind, please hit that like button. Let me know that you enjoy this type of content. I really appreciate it. Robert Barnes. I need to check out Robert Barnes. Trial lawyer Robert Barnes has advised podcasters to take caution with the Macron versus Candace case. Allegedly, the Macrons are going after podcasters supporting Candace's theories. I have heard that for sure. And I hope that I'm not in any way, shape, or form I'm just giving y'all the information. I do have an opinion about the matter, but hopefully I'm giving y'all the information, but we'll see how it works. Appreciate y'all. Thank you so much. Patrick, I appreciate you. But let's do this again. I will definitely be have some videos dropping tomorrow. So we'll be checking those out. If you don't mind, please go ahead and make sure you hit that like button. Drop some green hearts in the chat on the way out the door. Make sure you tip your waiter. Let everybody know you appreciate them stopping through. And we'll do this again real soon. So everybody have a blessed night. And until then, grace and peace. Take care.